Talking Points memo is about political madness, which is not being covered by the corrupt national media. So now the Congress is on a break, right? So the senators and the representatives go back to their districts. And many of them hold town hall meetings where you get to meet them, ask them questions. Okay, it's been going on since the Civil War. All right, people have the meeting, they go in, locals express their concerns to their elected representatives the way it was designed to be by the founding fathers. Well, now it's being corrupted. I'll give you the best example I can possibly give you. So Senator Chuck Grassley is 91 years old, a senator from Iowa, a senior senator, okay? He's a good guy. I've known him for years. He has a town hall meeting in Lee County, Iowa. Small place, rural place, right? And he goes in, and this is what happens. Go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with laws.
I would welcome refugees, and I would welcome people that need asylum.
Are you going to bring that guy back from El Salvador? Yeah. Why not?
Well, because that's not a power of Congress.
Supreme Court said to bring him back.
Judges are. And the president has upholding the Constitution.
He's defined the
You're on the
Constitution.
Judiciary Committee.
Trump don't care.
If I get an order to pay a ticket for $1,200 and I just say no, does that stand up? Because he's got an order from the Supreme Court and he's just said no.
Yeah. He just said, screw it.
I'll be able to answer your question.
You ignored my letter.
Guatemala or El Salvador is an independent country. The president
Speak
of
up,
that
please. We can't hear you.
The president of that country is not subject to our U.S. Supreme Court.
Trump wanted to bring him back. Trump didn't bring him back.
All right, those people didn't want to hear what Grassley had to say. They were all activists. They were organized. That wasn't organic. That wasn't the regular folks coming out. All right, so we investigated. That was organized by the Lee County Democratic Machine. All right, they seated that audience with all these activists who were going to yell at Grassley. Now, media didn't report that. I don't even think the local media reported it in Iowa. It was, oh, yeah, everybody's, no, not everybody's mad. The Democratic activists, the far left people are mad. And Grassley walks right into it, and he's 91. For me, I would have cleared the room. Now, this is happening all over the country, as I said. In Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman up there, had a town hall in Ackworth, and the police had to be called. Go.
Taser. Stop. Move. Go. Sure. Put your hand on your
Okay, so again, same thing. These were activists. They were piped in there to attack Marjorie Taylor Greene, which they did. All right? This isn't democracy, because the people in Ackworth and in Iowa, the regular folks, they had questions to ask. But they're disrupted to the fact that they can't even get the town hall underway. Again, we looked for Georgia coverage of this. No, we had to do it. We had to do it. Nobody in Atlanta doing it. Oh, boy, that's the corruption that we're dealing with here. Now, a final kicker on the Georgia thing, they were bailed out, the three that were arrested, by the Cobb County Democratic Committee, bailed them out. Jeez, Lord. Now, if Republicans had done that, they would have been fascists, Nazis, racists, you know. But the Democrats can get away with it because the press won't cover it. So Terrible. All right. So just to reiterate, this is happening all over the place. If it happens in your town or your area, your county, let me know. Okay? Because we're going to follow this. And that's the Democratic Party at this point, right now. And that's a memo. All right, blood feud alert. Blood feud alert. Donald Trump versus New York Attorney General Letitia James. As you know, Ms. James was very instrumental in prosecuting Mr. Trump for state crimes in New York that, in my opinion, and I think most people agree with me, were trumped up, pardon the pun. All right. And she had one case where his business operation did something that nobody could understand, where there were no victims, and James was behind this. Okay. So now Donald Trump is president. And guess who's under investigation for mortgage fraud? That would be Letitia James. Fascinating case. So a guy named William Pulte is the director of the United States Federal Housing Finance Agency. Okay? And he has sent a referral to the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, all right, that the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, may have committed fraud in purchasing a house in Virginia. Basically, the case outlines this way. If you tell the Commonwealth of Virginia the house you're buying is your primary residence, you can get a lower mortgage rate. Apparently, allegedly, that's what Miss James did when she bought a house in Virginia. But it's not her primary residence because she's the Attorney General of New York. So now the Justice Department may file charges against her. Fascinating story. But this is really, oh, whoa. So, no charges yet. I expect there will be against Ms. James. Now, she today announces that she's investigating Donald Trump, the president, for insider trading over the tariff stuff. You see where this is going? All right. Revenge versus retribution. We did that earlier this week. You make the call on it. But boy, it's getting unbelievably nasty. California is suing Donald Trump on tariffs. This is Governor Gavin Newsom. It says that, hey, President Trump's unlawful tariffs are wreaking chaos in California families, businesses, and our economy, driving up prices, threatening jobs. So we're suing. You lose. California can't win. Number one, it doesn't have jurisdiction in tariffs. It's a federal thing. And number two, unlawful. Trump could do this. I don't think there's anybody in the country that said the president can't control the tariff situation. Come on. But they're just Gavin Newsom's doing it for political reasons, wasting tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands if they continue with this, of California tax money. Not going to win. All right, but again, nasty, nasty, nasty. Judge Boasberg, James Boasberg. Now, this is the guy in D.C., he's a federal judge, who said that the plane full of the criminal migrants going to El Salvador from Texas had to turn around and come back. And the Trump administration ignored that. So Boasberg now says that he has probable cause that Donald Trump is in contempt. Okay? He's in contempt. Again, this is a loser. Okay? Boasberg isn't going to win it. Boasberg is a liberal judge. Now, there is a study by the Hill newsletter, you can get that online, that said there are 200 lawsuits currently in play against the Trump administration. 72% of them have been assigned to judges appointed by Democratic presidents. All right? 69 Biden, 66 Obama, Clinton 26. Okay? 72% of all the lawsuits against the Trump administration are being heard by judges appointed by Democrats. And then they cite the Hillside District of Columbia as the most, 107, Massachusetts, Maryland, Washington State, California, New York. 177 out of 200 are in liberal states. Now, the Supreme Court has already sent a message that this is not going to stand, but they're going to have to rule on this. Because what the intent is, so you know, is for the Democratic Party, I am putting this in the party, okay, to create so much chaos that Trump can't govern. That's what the plan is. Sue him every time he turns around. There is a lot of talk about government debt, but the real crisis is personal debt. You need Done with Debt. They have unique strategies to help end your debt fast, so you can keep more of your hard-earned money. And they will not try to sell you a loan. They're tough negotiators. Will go one-on-one with your credit card and loan companies to drastically reduce bills, eliminate interest, erase penalties. Clients end up with more money in their pocket on month one. And they don't stop until you're debt-free. Take a few minutes. Visit donewithdebt.com. It's free, but listen, some solutions are time sensitive, so you have to move quickly. Go to donewithdebt.com. Donewithdebt.com. Tell them Bill sent you. Colorado, crazy left state. When I lived there, it wasn't. It was a traditional state. Now it's crazy left. So the House, as we reported, has passed a law. I don't know whether the governor is going to sign it or the Senate is going to pass it, but the law is outrageous. Here it is. Colorado taxpayers must fund abortions. That goes against the Hyde Amendment for the United States, which says you can't force Americans to pay for abortions. So the state law goes right against the federal law, and of course, federal law trumps state law. Second one, the law prohibits cooperation with out-of-state investigations on transgender procedures. This is saying we're not going to obey Donald Trump's law on transgendered men competing with women. That's what this is. And you saw what happened to Maine. The governor said, "I'm not going to obey it." Trump just cut off all money from Maine. All right, Maine's hurt. So Colorado did. We're not going to obey this law from Trump. Okay? Third one, gender-affirming care must be provided by all insurance companies in Colorado. Gender-affirming care means hormone therapy, surgical procedures for children without parental permission. This is insane, this law. All right? And finally, schools are to use students' preferred names rather than their born names. Joining us now from Winona, Minnesota, is the bishop out there of the diocese, Robert Barron. You may know him because he has a very successful social media operation called Word on Fire, okay, which is worth checking out even if you're not Catholic. So is the church in America going to get involved with this in Colorado?
Well, it might. We've been involved in similar struggles in different states. You look at my home state here in Minnesota, we're a sanctuary state, which means that you can take a kid from his parents in a state other than Minnesota, bring him here, and despite the parents' objections, they can do all this gender-affirming business. We've been opposing it. There have been similar things. I was out in California as an auxiliary bishop, and we were fighting these battles. It's a real ideological struggle because, I mean, the church stands athwart this very modern sense of everything depends upon freedom. You know, we just get rid of any objective normativity. We say it's all a matter of personal free choice. Even a child choosing its gender, I mean, it's beyond absurd, but it's a deeper moral problem about human nature and this weird primacy we've given to freedom of choice. And the church, I think, is the strongest, most articulate organization standing against this business.
But you've got to organize and do something formal so the American people know that there is opposition to what Colorado is doing. And I have not seen that, Bishop, so far.
Yeah, I mean, in some of the states, the bishops' conferences get together. We'll have our meeting in June, and sometimes these issues come up, and we try to find an organized, response. But usually, it takes place at the state level, the state conference level, is where the bishops tend to engage these things. We just met as Minnesota bishops with the governor, Governor Walz, and with the top leadership in Minnesota. We laid out all the concerns that we have about these various things. So I think that's really where the battle usually is joined at the state conference level.
Okay, but that's all well and good. But the mobilization of the American people, I think most Americans would find this law barbaric in Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay, 2-1. If you polled it, 2-1, they go, you can't allow children to not tell their
Right.
parents they're going to have a surgery to change their gender. That's just off the chart. But there doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be any logical or apparent opposition to this. Now, when you're in a situation where the Colorado law basically is saying we don't care about the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment was passed because you can't, the United States government, according to the Constitution, can't force somebody of conscience, a Catholic, to fund something that's a sin in the Catholic religion. That's as simple as that.
Right.
All right? You can't force, it's a freedom of religion issue.
Right.
You can't take
We've
the
been
money.
opposing that stuff for years. Right. Now,
Right.
we've been very articulate and clear, I think, in our opposition to this stuff for years, trying to carve out these conscience protection clauses. And as I say, I fought this now in 3 different states as a priest and as a bishop, and we raised it a lot at the national level. I'm on the Bishops' Committee for Religious Liberty, and that's how we name this. It's precisely a religious, liberty, free exercise issue.
Well, I don't believe that right now in the USA, and I could be wrong, but I follow these kinds of stories very closely, that it's an organized opposition. You say state by state, okay, but Trump is the guy that's knocking the DEI out, that's knocking the woke out, it's telling the states you can't do transgendered men competing against women in sports. It's a secular thing. Trump is doing it. And he's doing it for political reasons because the MAGA people want that. But there doesn't seem to be a religious alliance with Trump there.
Well, I'm chair of the Bishops' Committee on Laity, Youth, and Family Life, and I've issued a couple of statements supporting those moves of Trump, especially in the gender area, especially in men and women's sports and all that. I came out against him in terms of in vitro fertilization. So I spoke as chair of that committee. See, in the way the church is organized, power is concentrated really in the individual bishop and maybe in the state conference. At the national level, sometimes we don't approach the questions at that level. It's more the individual bishop in his diocese or the state conference. Also, I try to do it through preaching. So I use the means I have of communication to talk about these things. I've been battling wokeism for years. I've been speaking out against it like crazy, and I have a lot of enemies because of it. But I've chosen to use this means of social communication I've got to.
What's your objection to
out.
woke? What's your objection to it?
It's fundamentally unjust. It's a fundamentally racist point of view. It's grounded in a European postmodern philosophy that's repugnant to Catholic social teaching, which is not an antagonistic social theory, but one based upon cooperation. I'm a Martin Luther King man, right? We're judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. And this return to a very racialized understanding and a very antagonistic understanding of society, I think all of that is repugnant to Catholic social teaching. So I've been against it for years.
Okay. So we're in Holy Week now, and the surveys say that church going, not only for Catholics, but for everybody, Protestants, Jews, Muslims, the whole across the board, is on the decline, vast decline. And the elevation of atheism and people who don't care, agnostics, is on the rise. Mm-hmm. Is there one thing that you could point to that has shifted us from a traditional society to a sexual society?
Well, of course, we've adopted largely this kind of, I call it culture of self-invention. So instead of looking at objective normativity and objective value, we just say it's a matter of my choice to create reality. And so the great opponent of that is belief in God. If you believe in God, you believe in a supreme objective value, and then arranged hierarchically under that are the other objective values. You get rid of God, you get rid of that whole framework, and all you're left with then is the freedom to invent reality. That's the ideology we're up against. That's another face of wokeism, by the way. But that's the struggle, you know. I would contest a bit. There are certainly indicators over the past 30 years of this great, you know, decline. In more recent years, though, there have been some more encouraging signs of revival in religious belief, especially among young people and especially young men. Just recently, I saw a study in both France and England. Numbers have gone up rather dramatically in terms of those joining the church. We still have a massive problem, and I've been tracing that for the past many years. The disaffiliation from the churches has been proceeding apace. But there are some hopeful signs, I'd say, in recent years.
All right. A lot of it is the media portraying religious people as fanatics and, you know, I mean, secular media dominates in America and in Europe as well. That, you know, if you're going to church, there's something wrong with you, and, you know, the atheists get all the attention. All right, Bishop, we really appreciate your point of view. Word on Fire, how can people get that? Why don't you tell us how we can
Just
get
go wordonfire.org, and you can find all kinds of resources there, sermons and podcasts and articles and so on.
All right. And we appreciate your work, and hope we can talk again soon. Thank you.
God bless you, Bill. Thanks.
Are you worried about the IRS collecting and unsavory tactics by that group? Tax Network USA, the nation's premier tax relief firm, can help you. They've already negotiated more than $1 billion in tax relief for their clients. Their services include penalty forgiveness, hardship programs, which can delay payments until your tax debt expires, and lump sum settlement options through offer in compromise. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their experts are ready to assist you. Even if you're behind on taxes due to missing records, Tax Network USA can guide you through the process. Tax season long over, and for the IRS, that means it's collection season now. So to schedule a complimentary consultation, please call 800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/bill. Don't let the IRS aggressive tactics control you. Take charge of your financial future. Visit tnusa.com/bill today. We don't talk enough about those truly making a positive impact. So let's take a moment to discuss Delta Rescue, the world's largest no-kill care for life animal sanctuary. Home to more than 1,500 rescued animals, it is staffed by trained specialists who provide lifelong care, love, and safety. They do incredible work. But look, it's important to remember that Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions from us. I have donated, and so should you. Their founder, Leo Grillo, built a legacy of dedication and everlasting love for animals. So consider making it a part of your legacy too. Talk with an estate planner. Check out the estate planning tab at deltarescue.org. You can make a difference, even get potential tax benefits. So please visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. deltarescue.org. Harvard. So on Hannity today, it was pretty funny. Another blood feud, by the way, between Harvard and the Trump administration. So I have offered myself as a mediator in this blood feud because I attended Harvard. I know a lot of people up there, and I know the Trump administration. I think I could do détente, but Hannity goes, we don't want détente because Hannity's a conservative guy. I mean, he goes, we don't want it. That might be true, but I'm going, blessed are the peacemakers, right? If I can broker some deal between Harvard and the Trump administration, isn't that a worthy thing? Hannity had very, very severe reservations about it. It's posted on BillO'Reilly.com. Okay? Very interesting. So, Trump administration is freezing $2.2 billion. We reported that yesterday. Now they might go after, the president might go after tax exempt. Say, Harvey, we're not going to give you a tax exemption. Okay, you got to pay tax on everything you do, including your endowment. It's unbelievable how much tax Harvard would have to pay. And the reason is because we believe you are not, okay, enforcing federal law when it comes to protecting Jewish students. And you're indoctrinating your students with a whole bunch of radical leftists on your faculty, and you won't stop doing that. So there are a myriad of federal regulations that Harvard is violating according to the Trump administration. And they can back it up. I mean, Bill de Blasio, the worst mayor of New York City ever, a Democrat, he got hired by Harvard. Lori Lightfoot, the worst mayor in Chicago history, got hired by Harvard. And they get paid about $200,000, each of them, to go up there and do nothing, to spout gibberish. Now, have you heard of any Republican governors being hired up? No. Or mayors? No. When I was there at the Kennedy School of Government, it was liberal, but it wasn't activist liberal. What happened was it became very activist liberal. They fired Gay, the president, who is an absolute extremist, a Palestinian sympathizer, hates Israel, on and on and on and on. This is all my opinion of Gay, but I think it's solid. Now, the new guy up there, he's trying to be a little bit more moderate, but he's got a campus. Most of these students are leftists because that's what they wanted. That's the culture they wanted at Harvard. When I was at the Kennedy School, the grad students there was across the board. There were a lot of military people in there and a lot of foreign students, the sons and daughters of sultans and this kind of thing. It wasn't crazy left. Now it is. Anyway, this feud, if Harvard loses its tax-exempt status, is going to be pretty intense. So enter Barack Obama, who is supporting Harvard because he went to Harvard Law. Quote, Harvard has set an example for other higher ed institutions, rejecting an unlawful and ham-handed attempt to stifle academic freedom, while taking concrete steps to make sure all students at Harvard can benefit from an environment of intellectual inquiry, rigorous debate, mutual respect. Let's hope the other institutions follow suit, unquote. I don't know. I think that might be a little optimistic by President Obama. Okay, I don't think there's a wide acceptance of conservative views at Harvard. And I know what's going on up there in Cambridge. Well, here's how President Trump replied on Truth Social. Quote, perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status, be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired supporting sickness. Remember, tax-exempt status is totally contingent on acting in the public interest. Ooh, another feud. Okay. Now, here is a surprise. Analyzing this on MSNBC, Chris Matthews said this. Go.
It's Trump going after the elites. He knows what he's doing. Politically, it's not going to hurt him. I think these universities have enough money to cover their legacies. They got a lot of money to handle it, so they're going to be able to take care of themselves. I don't want to be loose about this, but I think Trump targeting these universities is probably not the worst move he ever made.
All right. So the sympathies probably lie, I agree, with President Trump. And if you guys want me to get involved, and I'll be happy to do it. I would like to see Harvard. I don't want to see them punished. As I told Hannity, school does a lot of good, particularly in the medical area. But they got to stop with the leftist ideology up there. And I don't know if that's possible. All right, update on the attack on Governor Josh Shapiro's home in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The nut who did it, Corey Balmer, 38 years old, no bail. He'll never get out. Now he said he wanted to hurt Shapiro because of what Shapiro wants to do to the Palestinian people. This guy's crazy. I mean, look at him, okay? So the thing I want to know about is what is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania doing to protect people? How could this guy do this? Get over that fence and bomb the house? There's not much reporting on that. We're watching it. Smart Life. This comes out of Neurology, the medical journal of the American Academy of Neurology. 8 drinks a week increase your chance of Alzheimer's brain lesions by 133%. Whoa! Just 8 drinks a week. Actually, 8 drinks a week, that's kind of a lot. So there's a survey of 1,781 people. Moderate drinkers, 60% greater chance of developing brain lesions. So you don't have to be a drunk. Okay, now here is the big stat. And remember, this is Smart Life. Heavy drinkers die an average of 13 years earlier than non-drinkers. So if you are a heavy drinker, get that cemetery plot up and running. 13 years. Now, I never drank. And I get a lot of Irish comments on that, but I don't care. I mean, I'm not. You say that about some ethnic groups, and I don't care. Irish people traditionally have a pub culture. Come on, it's fact. I never drank. But in my family, we've had some people die of cirrhosis of the liver and die from alcohol. And I think almost every family in the world has it. But I thought that intoxicants forwarded my life in any way. Same thing with drugs, as you know. And I'll tell you what, at my age, my advanced age, the fact that I never drank and never took drugs has really, really helped me, both mentally and physically. Smart Life. Just using me as the guinea pig. Thank you for watching. To view full episodes of the No Spin News anytime, sign up to become a BillO'Reilly.com premium or concierge member today.